lot of professionals, parents in the room, people just trying to find out more, something different that might be able to help children. And we're honored to be able to provide some information on neurodevelopmental delay therapy. So a little bit about me. My name is Lacey Davis. I'm the owner of Patterns of Hope, and I am also an NDD therapist. So I like to explain NDD this way. I do movement therapy that works on the reflexes. My technical title is Neuro-Developmental Delay Therapist, but that's a mouthful and I could have risked losing all of you in one sentence. So if you can remember NDD or movement therapist, I'm okay with that. I have a bachelor's degree in behavioral science with an emphasis in psychology and a minor in sociology and elementary education. I attended the Institute of Neuropsychological Psychology, INPP postgraduate program. I have 18 years working with children and family. I know, I started when I was 5. Most of this time spent working with children with educational struggles, including my own kiddos. So, speaking of my own kiddos, my husband and I have 2 boys. The first one's Chase. Beginning before NDD, he was 2 years behind grade level, educational struggles in reading, writing, and math, dyslexia, dyspraxia, ADD and ADHD-like symptoms, coordination and balance issue. Chase was my one that was doing the riskiest activities and in constant motion 24/7. Sensory processing issues, following step-by-step instructions, and immaturity. One of the first indications before I even knew this existed, or one of the first areas we got him help with, was speech. We noticed he had a speech delay. And that was the same with Brendan. Brendan was a little bit more severe than Chase. He was 3 years behind grade level. Educational struggles in all subjects. Coordination and balance, he was the exact opposite. He was my klutzy kid. He tripped over error. He ran into things. Something wasn't right, so he was more klutzy. Sensory processing. I remember one time when he was riding his bike and just a little scrape on the knee, and I think the world heard him fall that day. The screams from him. Step-by-step instructions. Speech delay, again, was our first indication something was not quite right. Immaturity. Brendan had a lot of stress and anxiety. And then we started seeing some autism traits too. And people were saying, hey, let's have you get him tested for autism. So our story still continues that we went through speech therapy, occupational therapy, physical therapy, both our children in so many IEP programs and IEP meetings, right? And everybody that we worked with were amazing. There's some amazing specialists and providers out there that do great things. The problem was at the end of the day, it was like we go through a spelling list, right? And spell everything correctly, and then at the end of the day, he'd fall asleep and wake up like he'd never seen those words ever again. So everything was helping, but nothing was sticking. So I was like, there's gotta be more. So I kept asking in those IEP meetings, what more can we do? What more can we do? They're struggling more, they're falling more behind. Is there anything else? And then an individual, unfortunately, stood up and said, maybe we should lower the expectations of our children. And that phrase still haunts me today. But if I'm completely honest with you, maybe it was the thing that pushed me to find something different. Thankfully, a dear friend introduced us to NDD. She's the reason I'm standing here in front of you today. She's also the reason I met Brendan's NDD therapist, Emily Roper. You guys might have heard that name. She's with Early Roots. And she's up in the Springs with you guys. I'm so grateful I found Emily. I saw the tremendous change in Brendan right away, and so you can imagine what the next couple meetings with her looked like. It was more me going, how do we get this out to more parents? Where do I get the education? Like, I was just drilling this poor woman. And she quickly became my mentor now. She is my friend, and we're trying to get the word out about NDD together. So huge shout out to any parents in the room. I've been there. It's tough. So I am here to hopefully help you alleviate your child's struggles. And there's so many specialists in the room tonight too. I'm hopeful we can all work together to help these children and their families. So my goal with Patterns of Hope is really to create a holistic wellness center. First and foremost, to help the child, but then to help their families as well. We can't forget about the family. My goal is to start connecting with other specialists, and a lot of you are in the room tonight. I want to take a moment and thank you all for taking time out of your super busy schedules to be here and to learn more about NDD therapy. Again, I want to help more children and families. That's what this is about. To achieve my goal, I need to continue to connect with more like-minded individuals. So if you're thinking tonight, ooh, Lacey could use to speak to this person, or this would be a really good group for Lacey to speak to, if you do that introduction and get that working together, I'll give you a gift for your support and your help. So thank you in advance for your help. Speaking of, there is that woman in the room today. Her name is Lisa Villarreal. I was like, I'm gonna really mess up your name, Lisa. I'm sorry. Can you come up here? I have a gift for you. She's the reason a lot of you are in the room today. She's been helping me get the word out about NDD. She's just been amazing support. So thank you so much. Oh, thank you. Oh, but it is, because this is a hidden gem, and if we don't talk about it, nobody knows about it. There's also a few other ladies that are helping me get the word out about NDD too. These ladies aren't with us tonight, but their names are Stacy Batten and Melissa Ashford, or Missy Ashford. These two ladies have experienced the transformation in their kiddos and said, we need to get this NDD out to more families. We need to get this out. So they created a new foundation called the NDD Family Foundation, and they're helping us spread the word about this therapy. Currently, they're looking for ways to fund our services for lower income families to receive the help they too need for their children. So we're hoping they find ways to do that. We're gonna be updating everybody in this room. If you want our information, I'll give you more about that, but we're gonna keep everybody updated so that you can see what they're all about. They wanna support the families that have already been through NDD, are presently going through it, and plan to go through it in the future. So they've created a Facebook page where we can all ask questions and share stories, because I'm not gonna deny, NDD can sometimes be a bumpy road, and it's nice to have other families that can relate. So we just want to thank them for their support. So let's just jump into it, guys. I'm gonna speak to the families, of course, but I'm also gonna speak to the professionals in the room getting the help that they need. So the research, this astonished me when I saw this. 1 in 6 children, just ages 2 to 8, had a diagnosed mental, behavioral, or developmental disorder. It's, wow, yeah. So what is NDD? So neurodevelopmental delay refers to the immature functioning of the central nervous system. This immaturity is evidenced by the presence of primitive reflexes and the underdevelopment of postural reflexes and a host of other neurological markers. Each child is different. We were just talking about this, right? Each child's different, and symptoms come up in unique ways. Some of the most common symptoms we see with Patterns of Hope are emotional instability, behavioral problems, poor hand and eye coordination, difficulties in school, reading, writing, math. Anxiety and stress is on the huge uprise. Hypersensitivity, ADD and ADHD-like symptoms, motion sickness, decreased immune system, and inflexibility. So how is NDD therapy different? We work to alleviate struggles from the bottom up, starting as low as the brainstem to the frontal cortex, in the way that the baby or the child develops naturally. So in other words, we work very developmental. So we don't want to skip anything, and we want to get to the root of the problem. So we ask the question, why is the child struggling in the first place? And then we look at several brain and body systems and reflexes that provide foundation for all future brain development. Once we address and help these fundamental body systems and reflexes to ensure they are working correctly, we then observe executive functioning and higher learning skills becoming achievable for children. We then follow when we follow normal development and focus from the bottom-up approach, we come across optimal times for the children to develop the skills that they once struggled with. This is where you specialists in the room come into play. This is where we can help strengthen reading, writing when the body's ready, when they're able to take on that higher learning. So the brains and bodies are prepared and ready for higher learning at this point, and Patterns of Hope would love nothing more than to recommend all of you. So the areas we really help with are balance and coordination, vestibular and functioning, primitive and postural reflexes, the stress response, motor skills, and visual perception skills. So I'm going to play this video because it just talks on the vestibular part just a little bit. So.
Vestibular input helps us interpret movement of our head. We have fluid in our inner ear canals that moves and changes directions as our head moves and changes directions. It lets our brains know where our heads are in space. Vestibular input allows our bodies to know if we're sitting still or spinning, if we're moving fast or slow, and if we're moving with gravity or against gravity. It also allows us to determine which direction we are going and coordinate our eye movements with our head movements. Spinning, turning, and climbing all rely on our vestibular sense.
I'll describe red flags that can characterize different patterns of dysfunction that all fall under that very big vestibular umbrella. So first up, we have a child who is very fearful and insecure during movement activities where their feet need to come off the ground. That can include things like climbing or swinging or even just being picked up and being held. If your child has a big emotional response with things like that, they may have difficulties modulating vestibular input. Then we have children who have difficulties with balance or demonstrate poor posture, another big red flag. A third would be a child who has difficulties with using their eyes while their posture is challenged or while the body is moving. And then we have a fourth red flag, which would be difficulties with bilateral coordination or just generally using the body in symmetrical movements while doing gross motor activities. Then finally, kind of going along with the last one, difficulties moving in sequence with a rhythm or when considering timing. If your child is generally uncoordinated, then there may be some difficulties with vestibular processing.
All right. So the first body system we look at with Patterns of Hope is balance in the vestibular system. Balance is the first system to develop to 16 weeks in utero, and it is myelinated at birth. If there's an issue with the balance or the vestibular system, it can affect all other reflexes within the body and even the sensory system. The vestibular system operates very closely with the reflex to help facilitate balance. Signs of vestibular function, as you can imagine, are poor balance. These are the kids that have a delay in sitting, crawling, walking, poor muscle tone, easily disoriented, clumsiness, difficulty sitting still, likes to spin or rock, or in case of my son, constantly in motion. Poor organization skills and poor sensory processing. So I'm also going to have you watch this video.
Some kids are really bouncy and can't sit still. Some kids aren't very coordinated. Some see food as a pile of toxic goo that hurts their mouth and jangles their taste buds. School might be a mysterious place where things don't make much sense. If this sounds like you may have sensory processing disorder, and we're going to explain it here. Your body has 7 senses: vision in your eyes, hearing in your ears, touch in your skin, taste in your mouth, and smell in your nose. And you have 2 movement senses: your muscles and your sense of balance. In sensory processing disorder, these senses don't communicate right with your brain. Think of the nerves connecting your brain and senses as a set of roads. Those roads should be smooth superhighways so that the senses and brain can communicate fast. If you have sensory processing disorder, then some of your roads are bumpy and rough. You can also think of the senses as having a broken volume control. If the volume is too high, you'll feel your senses too strongly. If the volume is too low, you won't feel sensation at all. In fact, you'll want more. Some kids overcome these problems as they grow older. Others need help.
So as you can imagine, Patterns of Hope can help, and then along with all the specialists in this room, everybody can help out these children. So, what do you think of when I say reflex? Well, most people think of that doctor taking that hammer, hitting your knee, and your leg popping up. And it's true, they are looking for a reflex there. But we like to describe it as follows. Reflexes are strong stereotyped movements that help babies survive and develop advanced skills. These skills that the baby is born with should be integrated and move into more of advanced postural skills and adult reflexes. So how does Patterns of Hope help the body systems and the reflexes that have not integrated? If we determine a reflex did not integrate in the way it was supposed to in normal development, we work with this reflex or body systems, just giving it a little bit more practice, if you will. So we give the child an IMPP exercise that mimics in utero or infancy movements. This exercise is intended to just give it a little bit more practice so they can emerge into postural or adult reflex as they should have in the normal developmental process. What happens if a primitive reflex does not integrate fully? Implications on learning, balance and coordination, and behavior can be seen. Some primitive reflexes that we work with Patterns of Hope are the palmar reflex. This reflex is going to have lots of sensitivity in the palm of the hands. You may see immature grasp of an eating utensil or a pencil, holding a pencil or a pen. You may see the beginning stages of crawling be awkward for this child. They may crawl on their fists, their fingertips, or they may not crawl at all because they don't want to place their palms on any surfaces. And crazy enough, I was talking to a speech pathologist the other day, and I was like, do you know how connected the hands, the palms are with suck and the rooting reflex and all that? And she's like, what? And I'm like, when the baby's fed, when they're an infant, they're doing this. They're using their hands. So we can see speech being involved with this reflex being not integrated fully. Rooting, oral stimulation, anything goes in the mouth. You've seen these kiddos. The shirt, the hair, anything they can put in their mouth, they do. Speech and articulation is big with this one. Spinal galant, this has to be one of my favorites right now because it's getting a lot of attention. Poor concentration, always fidgeting and can't sit still. My goodness, specialists, I think that sounds like ADD and ADHD. What do you think? A lot of researchers are starting to point to this being one of the contributors. So we look for the spinal galant reflex and we help to integrate that. Plantar reflex is the exact opposite of the palmar, it's just in your feet. So you're gonna see your toe walkers, you're gonna see some instability issues and things of that nature. And then what happens if a postural reflex doesn't emerge correctly? Same thing. Learning, balance and coordination and behaviors can be seen. Some of the postural reflexes we help to emerge with Patterns of Hope are The head riding reflex. Eye movements and posture controls can be affected if this one has not emerged. And the way we check this is we tilt the kiddo to the side. And because when we tilt to the side, I mean, automatically, my head goes the opposite direction. All of ours does, to keep us upright and balanced. Now think about it. If kids are walking around out there, they know the social norms, so they have to stay balanced and coordinated. They have to look the part, right? We're all watching them, or they think we are. There's all judgments. They know this. So that kid is focused on keeping himself or herself balanced. That's all they care about. And then we're like, okay, sit down, pay attention, learn this, learn that, and all they have in their battery, if you will. I always say, think of a kid with a battery on the back of their back. If a skill is so difficult, that battery gets drained by that one skill. So balance and coordination takes up all that battery, and then we want to put higher learning into it, pay attention to the teacher, do well in school, come home, do homework, and then the parents are freaking out because their kid is losing it at the end of the day, because they have no more battery to give, right? So that's a big one we work with, and that's why we work with vestibular imbalance so much. We want it to become automatic, so it's not something they need to focus on. The amphibian reflex, we'll see cross-pattern movements like crawling being very difficult and lack of fluency in gross muscle movements or motor movements. Segmental reflex, rolling reflex, you're going to see lots of hip rotation issues and a stiff walking position and posture if this one is not emerged correctly. So, deeper dive into some of the major reflexes we work with the patterns of hope. One of my favorites is the Moro reflex. This is the child's fight or flight response. This reflex can be set off by any unexpected anything. Sensory stimulus, but anything, noise, touch, vision. Children can get stuck in this response and state of arousal all day, and some can be constantly stuck here, so that any little thing that sets them off is going to be huge to them, and you're going to see the meltdowns and some of the common symptoms below. We address this reflex before going on to any of the others because we're doing the normal developmental process, right? So this is whole body infant reflex. We test this reflex when they're born by tipping their head backwards, and they flail and they cry. So we address this one first. We're going to see poor balance and coordination if a kid has this hypersensitivity, hyposensitivity, just like that volume control in that video, if you will. Anxious and fearful, stress and anxiety, all of those go along with this. Poor impulse control, at the point when they're set off and they have no more battery to give. There's no reasoning with these kiddos. You guys have been there, you parents have been there. They're gone, and it's like, you know, you send them to their room, or you like, let's just calm down, let's breathe, and sometimes you can't will them back in. You'll see the kids sometimes hiding in the corner and wanting to be left alone. You'll see others like searching out the room, waiting for the thing to happen again, or bouncing off the walls, being hyperactive. Each kid is different. Emotional immaturity, prone to motion sickness, immune issues, and some stimming. So this is where we're able to help some of those kiddos that look like they have some autism going on. I also like to say, not that most parents do this, but if you were to go out to breakfast before you go to school, and a tray of dishes were dropped, we'd all jump. Everybody in this room would jump. But all of us with a just reaction startle reflex scan the room, figure out what caused the noise, and we're able to calm ourselves down. Well, it looks as if our kid has calmed himself or herself down too. But with a kid with a Moro, that's not the case. And then we take them to school, sit down, listen to your teacher, be quiet, take on learning, and they're like, I'm gonna sit in the back of the room, I'm gonna search the room, and I'm gonna wait for that noise to happen again. And they're not focused on anything but what is going to scare me again. So, for the parents in the room, or just to give you guys some testimonials, I did throw these in. So, and just take a brain break, if you will. I'll read these to you. M is an 11-year-old who came to Patterns of Hope struggling with math, paying attention in class, recalling directions, memory to turn in homework or to bring homework home. We've all seen that. Organization and confidence. Testimony from M's mother just 5 months later. My son has had better sleep patterns. There are some parts of math that seem to be clicking a little better. I've noticed him reading and writing more. He also felt like he had the ability to complete an assignment that had been hard for him previously. I'm loving his growth, and I can't wait to watch as he grows to his full potential. So, the next reflex we dive into, developmentally, is the ATNR, the asymmetric tonic neck reflex. The ATNR is triggered by head movement, left to right. And so when the baby or the child stuck with this reflex turns their head to the left, these limbs want to straighten, these limbs want to bend, and vice versa. So if a child, this reflex does help, it has its purpose, it works with the birth process, it begins to jumpstart visual motor skills, and it creates a strong connection between the head, the eyes, and the hands. Common symptoms, if it's not integrated correctly, are poor visual tracking, difficulty crossing midline, we've seen those kids, reading and writing delays. You're going to see the kid taking the page and putting it to the side so they don't have to cross the midline. You could also see that kid that covers one eye when they're reading because their eyes are not going to want to cross the midline. Poor balance and coordination. You imagine if your body wants to do this thing every time you turn, balance and coordination is going to be out the window. And poor hand-eye coordination. These are also the kiddos like playing tennis with them. That ball's coming straight at them. Oh my goodness, which way am I going to turn my head? And what's my body going to do? And how do I react? And bam, that ball's going to hit them square in the head every time. So they're the ones that are going to have a hard time with, physical education, sports, especially with a ball, stuff like that. So a deeper dive into the TLR, this is going through development again, so we're working on the head up and down now. So when the head goes into extension, so does the arms and legs. And when the head goes into flexion, the whole body, you see those body positions and crouching over and just poor body tone with this one. This reflex helps babies develop muscle tone, visual skills, and good vestibular balance. Again, all the way through the program, we're working on the balance and coordination of the vestibular. We always keep track of that and keep baselines and see how that's looking. A TLR inflection, they're going to have difficulties with visual motor skills, low muscle tone and posture, reading, writing, and math difficulties, poor visual perceptual difficulties, motion sickness. If you can imagine, just having your body do so many things when you want to turn your head could make any of us ill. Spatial problems, I see some math problems with this one. Dislike sports and physical education again. It's just so hard for that visual connection with that ball coming at them or them being able to complete sporting tasks. TLR and extension is quite the opposite. We're going to have the stiff walking position, the toe walkers, balance and coordination is going to be hard again, motion sickness, ocular motor problems, poor sequencing skills, poor organization skills, and vestibular issues. So another testimonial, NT is a 9-year-old who came to Patterns of Hope struggling with learning disabilities in all subject areas. Balance and coordination issues, behavior, mood fluctuations, and eye crossing issues. Testimony from MT's mother just 6 months later. My daughter has seen major improvements at school, attention, and even memory. Things are finally starting to stick when it comes to phonics and letter spacing. She's loving school again. We are seeing better recall and being able for her to tell me about how her day went. You guys have been there, right? How's your day? Fine. Anybody? So she's begun to develop a more mature attitude and wants to help out around the house. Pause. I don't know if I can make all your children want to help out around the pause, but we are Patterns of Hope, so we'll hope. My child has become an entirely different, improved person since starting this therapy. And then one of the last postural reflex we look into is the STNR, the symmetric tonic neck reflex. The STNR is triggered by a change in head position. This time, when the head goes into extension and flexion, other things happen because we've already integrated the TLR. So now, the head goes into extension, and the arms go out, and the legs bend. And when the head goes into flexion, the arms come in and bend, and the legs go out. Very awkward crawl here, right? Mostly, these kiddos take on the bunny hop, or the side scoot, or they don't crawl like an average kid. Maybe they don't crawl at all. Maybe they just avoid crawling altogether. So this helps develop muscle tone and vestibular skills. So symptoms of a retained STNR: poor balance and coordination, poor visual skills, poor postural, difficulties reading, writing, and math. The W sitting position is going to be quite comfortable for these kiddos. Difficulties with attention and poor hand-eye coordination. So I want you to think for a moment, a kiddo with this issue still intact, they're at school, they're looking up at the blackboard, and their paper's down in front of them. Their head goes up, their arm wants to go up. Their head goes down, their arm, I mean, how awkward. And then the motion sickness and the vestibular, and the vestibular, the poor visual skills, all of that is affected. So it's really hard for these kiddos to copy and to pay attention and to work at their desk and then watch the teacher. So we see a lot of math problems with this one, lining up columns as well, knowing where I am in space. So lots go on with this. So you may be asking, how is Patterns of Hope different? Each child has their own developmental pattern, and Patterns of Hope looks at each child individually. It helps us determine the best integration or INPP program for that child. Our program and therapy will never label a child, and we do not prescribe medications. We use research-based methods and exercises to help the reflexes do their job. We offer a contract-free approach. We want you to come back because you're seeing the tremendous results the child is having, more than making you come back and honor a contract, right? Because every kid is different, and they may need support from other specialists, and we're okay with that. We work to support the whole family, and again, if we're unable to do that, I want to provide a community of individuals that I can refer them to, and that's why a lot of you are in the room tonight. We support you 24/7 through challenging times, because NDD can be a rough road. It can be emotional, and you can see behaviors and stuff. But we're going to work with you, and we're also going to celebrate the wonderful successes your child is making. So yet another testimonial kind of to tell you about how I treat my customers or my clients. Lacey has so graciously walked us through this entire process. Her true concern for our child and her desire to the commitment to see my child get the results is genuine and evident. We are grateful for this therapy. It has allowed us to see the potential in our child being brought to life. So mom of a 12-year-old. Lacey has a warm, inviting spirit. This helped put our teen son at ease and relieved his anxiety during the assessment process. Lacey's weekly check-ins helped make us feel confident that she is on top of my son's NDD therapy and a partner with us during this process. We have only been with Patterns of Hope for about 24 weeks and have already seen quite a bit of change in our son. We are excited to see our son having an easier time managing school, expressing his thoughts, and dealing with life skills. We see the potential that has been locked inside our son being released. Thank you, Lacey. So what does a full assessment include? We test for gross muscle coordination and balance. We test for patterns of motor development. We test for cerebellar involvement. We test for dystokinesia, rapid alternative movements. We test for aberrant reflexes, both primitive and postural, ocular motor screening, and visual perceptual screenings. Now, I want to stop right there. We test for these, but we're just looking for a baseline. All I want to do is create a baseline and see how that kid changes within the therapy. And if I see anything in these areas that's huge red flags, I'm going to go, you need to talk to this doctor, you need to talk to this person, the eye doctor first, go here, and then we'll pick up on NDT therapy. I'm not a doctor. I'm not going to make those calls. I'm going to let the parent go get that checked out, get it all clear, and then we'll move forward. So we do, after we do all that testing, we leave the parent with the exercise that evening. We've heard of so many wonderful therapies, but they're years out. The wait list are just out of this world. So we want this kiddo to start getting help immediately. So we also do a 10-page diagnostic report to tell the parents our findings, to tell them what we observed. And we go through that with an hour review on like a Zoom with the parents or the caretakers of that child so that they know what we found and what we plan on doing going forward, what we plan on, what it looks like moving forward for them. So how do we get started and what does the program look like? So this would be for parents in the room, but just for your clients as well. The first step is I have you go to our website and create or complete the childhood questionnaire. And then when you hit submit, it comes right directly to me and I reach out and set up a free phone consultation. I want to talk to you and get all additional information that you think is important, and I want to make sure that Patterns of Hope is the right fit for your family and your child, because it's a commitment. So I want to make sure that that's there and that I'm addressing all of their questions or concerns. The second step is we go ahead, if you decide that Patterns of Hope is for you, we schedule your child's full assessment. This full comprehensive assessment is used to create just a baseline again of the child's developmental functioning. Each child has a different pattern, and you guys would like to see that, I'm sure. There we go. Let it be there. So the assessment is going to be, it's going to create your own individual INPP plan for your child's individual needs. So one size does not fit all. I have to tell parents all the time, like, don't roll the other kids in the blanket, please. You'll call me and things won't go well. I want to make sure that they're at the right stage, doing the right exercise for their needs. So it does look differently sometimes for each kid. Sometimes it looks the same, sometimes it looks different. But this is going to be both your biggest investment in both time and money, but it is what allows us to determine the right fit for your child. And then step 3, review assessments, and these are followed up visit schedules every 8 weeks. During these visits, we will rescreen and adjust your child's exercises. Again, we're going to look at that baseline, right? How that's changing. So we're going to look at the reflexes and the balance and the coordination again. So if you ever have any concerns about whether your child's doing an exercise correctly, you can always schedule a time to have it checked at no charge. Your child's safety and well-being are always my utmost concern. One of the greatest things too about Patterns of Hope is that you don't have to come out of our office 2 or 3 times a week. I don't have to come in and out of your home 2 or 3 times a week. You get to do this for 8 weeks at home, and I'm going to stay in contact with you throughout it all. Right now, I'm able to come to you for the full assessment and the review assessments. If you live outside our area, we can arrange to meet halfway at a library. I use this library a lot. It's a beautiful library. Or we have the option of doing these assessments on Zoom. So we can always do that as well. The key to your child's success, and I kind of said this earlier, it's kind of a commitment, but it's consistency, consistency, consistency. The exercise we give you needs to be completed 7 days a week. The exercise will only take you at most 15 minutes to complete and are fairly easy to do. This time allows you to bond with your child and maybe relax before bedtime. Reach out to me if you have any concerns. I'm here for you every step of the way. I'd love to celebrate children's success. That's my favorite part of this, right? We all want to see them succeeding. And then I reach out to my clients every Monday. I call them Monday check-ins, and I reach out and answer any questions, concerns, see how they're doing. And they can always reach out to me on other days as well if they have issues. Again, consistency, doing the exercise every night is key. So, my son Brendan, yes, the little kid that fell and scraped his knee. So this is his story now after NDD. Brendan was 3 years below grade level. He had an IEP in all the subject areas. He just got done with his sophomore year and has all A's and 1 B. I'm wondering if he needs honor classes. Brendan also had an IEP for speech, and now all of his speech problems are gone. Any autism tics he has are gone. I've not heard anyone say, go get him tested for autism in the last 4 or 5 years. He's excelling in mountain biking and is now a leader and team captain on his team. His immaturity has improved to an age-appropriate teenager, and I don't know if you guys have teenagers in the room, but the kid knows everything, so maybe even more as an age-appropriate teenager. Any behaviors or emotional problems that he had are gone. He is an improved version of himself, and we are so proud of his accomplishments. Now, Chase's story after NDD. Chase was 2 years behind grade level before NDD, and now he has just moved on from 6th grade going into 7th, and he got all A's. So I'm wondering if he needs honors classes. Chase has an IEP to help in areas of speech, sensory processing, dyslexia tendencies, and possible ADD and ADHD-like symptoms. All of these areas have improved or completely resolved. Chase's balance and coordination, remember this one was always on the go? Well, we've found soccer to combat that, but he's also able to sit still and pay attention as well. His soccer team just took 2nd place this season. His immaturity has improved to an age-appropriate 12-year-old going on 16-year-old. Any behavior or emotional problems he had are gone. He is an improved version of himself, and we are so proud of his accomplishments. So imagine the children you guys work with, your own children, children you know. Loving school, no more learning struggles, less behavior issues, less stress and anxiety, improved focus and attention, better coordination, being successful in life, and so much more. Now is the time. If you think Patterns of Hope can help your child, please fill out the questionnaire on our Get Started page of our website. If you schedule a time for a free phone consultation tonight and you decide Patterns of Hope is the right fit for your child and your family, we'd love to offer you $150 off your child's initial assessment. Those of you in the room today, if you offer this to your families and they reach out to me, I will honor this for them, okay? You must schedule this assessment on or before the 31st to take advantage of these skills. So let's do the end of the month-ish, but if they at least call and have that phone consultation with me, I can move that out. I know lots of parents are busy right now with the start of school. So I'm pretty flexible, I'll work with them, okay? We can't wait to celebrate these children's successes. So thank you so much again for attending our educational presentation tonight on NDD. I hope you found the information of value. There's so many ways to stay connected with us. So the Patterns of Hope Facebook group, NDD Foundation group, and Instagram. Please feel free to follow these now or take a picture. And then also my website's www.patternsofhope.com. My email address is there, my phone number is down there as well. Take a picture of the screen. Remember to fill out the information card on your table. And if you are a specialist, you can just write a note like, came to watch your presentation, or would like to meet you for coffee, or anything that applies to you guys. If it's not your kiddo that you're writing that about, just fill out your information so I can stay connected. I never want to bombard people with information that they're just not, on board with. So please let us know if we can stay connected. So, this is my favorite part. I'll do my best to answer your questions. So if anyone has them, you can ask them now, or I can come around to each of you too, and we can just mingle with each other in the room, because there is a lot of professionals in the room tonight. Yes?
So a lot of these, it was like lack of coordination, clumsiness, and then along with ADHD sometimes. But if a student is well coordinated and athletic, but so how does that? I know that's just a list of possible.
Right. If they're really good with that, well, and we'll take them and we do a lot of exercises, skipping, jumping, hopping, and I slow these exercises down. Because even to me, I'm like, wow, your kid is very coordinated, and then I start slowing things down and I find out, uh-oh, there's the problem. But not always. Sometimes I have kids that are great coordination and balance issues, and we can skip straight to helping them with their reflexes at that point. We usually do a blanket roll or an astronaut in the chair to just make sure that balance and vestibular is good, because I mean, these kiddos are smart. They can fool us. So I want to make sure it's clear, but I'll do the baseline on them, and if they're good to go, then we'll just move in to start working with the reflexes. So they'll go through the program a little faster for those kiddos that don't need that kind of support.
So you can have some symptoms and then be good, where it would be a weakness in other students, but it's not.
Yeah, every kiddo is gonna look so different. So yeah, you can have some of those symptoms. I have a little nephew that he has a Moro, 100%. And he's the one that wants to hide in the corner and, be in his own world. But he has some great skills too. And I look at him sometimes and I'm like, he doesn't need this. And then other times I'm like, uh-oh. So it's just 1, 2, 3 of those symptoms. And when we do the childhood questionnaire, it'll go through and they have to score about a 7 on that questionnaire to be a candidate for that program, this program too. We don't want to take a kid that's just struggling with reading and take them through this whole program. This would be too much for them. Where a dyslexia tutor or a reading tutor can help with that more. So that's another thing we do is we really scan and make sure they're a good fit for the program too before getting their, we don't want to waste their time, their money, nothing like that. Does that help? Okay, thank you. Yeah?
I'm very new to this.
Okay.
So this may be a stupid question.
No such thing.
Is it curable? Is it something that they have to do for the rest of their lives? Like, does that trigger it, or, at some point is it done?
No, usually my longest kiddo has been about 2.5 years, and that would have been Brendan. He was severe. But a lot of the kiddos is about 1 year to 2 years in the program, year and 6 months. It just kind of depends on when that baseline figures itself out. And you see, some parents are like, oh my gosh, the tremendous change, I'm good, we're out. And they end, and I do have to warn some parents, I usually like them to stick around for a year. Because if we don't do these for a year, we can sometimes see regression. And we don't want to see that. We really want these exercises and these reflexes to do their job. So I try to get them to stay with me for a little bit longer, hold with me, you'll see other changes, but it doesn't stay with them forever. It's not a label they're gonna have. You're never gonna see NDD, nor would anybody know what that meant anyways. That's a good thing about being a hidden gem, right? Is nobody knows what that label is. So no, we can help them and get through the stages. And if we do have trouble, because even my son the other day wrote, I think it was in Grandpa's birthday card, he wrote a J backwards, and I was like, I thought we'd fix that. And I'm like, what did we do? But that's where the dyslexia tutors and stuff at certain time are perfect. Because he needed extra practice in that area. He has all the skills now, and his body's ready to accept the higher learning, but now we need to do the learning, right? He's great in everything else, he's getting A's and B's, you wouldn't think he needs help, but sometimes they still need a little bit of support. So that's a great question, so.
I know a lot of agencies are looking at evidence-based interventions, thinking ahead for presentation proposals. Is this an evidence-based intervention currently, and is it anticipated to be covered by any forms of insurance down the road?
So the insurance, the quick response is no, for a couple of reasons. One, insurance agencies will demand what we do with the child and will tell us ways we need to treat that child instead of doing what we know works. So they really push us into guidelines, if you will, and it's just not gonna work. So hopefully, I mean, for me, no, I don't wanna see that. For these parents that need it covered by insurance, I get it, it's hard. So I'm hoping that Family Foundation will do some networking and get people to bring funds into the system that can help those parents that need it. I am able to take like an HSA card. It's kind of a gray area, but I'm able to take that card and they can pay for it with that. So if there's an insurance hope, that would be it. And then we are in the process, me and my team and the schools in the process to doing research and to see how long this is holding. And there is research out there on primitive reflexes and this type of thing working. The owners of this NDD and where I got my training, you might write these names down, are Peter Blythe and Sally Goddard Blythe. Peter is passed, but they're the ones that originated this. She's still working it. We got a lot of people that are putting this together because she's at the age of retirement. But we've got a lot of people that are wanting to do research, wanting to see how long this lasts and the prolonged, you know, what this looks like.
I can see the research already being there because they say that movement is actually the best way to keep a brain young.
Yeah.
So I gotta imagine with such sedentary lifestyles for young people, especially nowadays with gaming and phones, that you're probably seeing a lot more symptoms just from lack of movement. Because it's the number one thing. People think diet, and diet's important, but
It is.
the physical movement is really hard to keep the brain plastic and young. So
I agree. That's one area too I want to dive into. Thank goodness I have some nutritionists in the room. Because nutrition, that second brain, that gut is huge. And that's some areas that I need to branch out into. But why we have everybody in the room that can help us all out, right? We don't all know it all. So I brought them in and said, hey, will you give me some information on nutrition-wise and what we can do too to help during the process? I could only think that that would speed up some of the difficulties we're having with these kiddos too. So, sorry I didn't answer your question completely.
I just know a lot of agencies are like, is it evidence-based or is it covered by insurance? Are the big ones, especially with nonprofits that mostly Medicaid clientele.
Yeah.
They don't have a lot of funding to be able to pay for a service like that, but that's great that you guys are in the works of getting it.
Yeah, seek out the NDD, seek out those individuals, see what you can find. And the NDD Family Foundation, make sure to get on the Facebook page so we can give you any information we have to collecting funds and doing that. If anybody wants to help that agency or get involved, they need help. So let me know too.
Okay.
Yeah, so they're looking for people to help out. Anybody else? Great questions.
What's the age maximum that you work with?
So I work with, my youngest is about a 4-year-old because those postural reflexes really emerge at around 3.5. So if we start before that, we could see a reflex that needs to be there still. So 4 is about my youngest, and then I will really work with anybody that has the child at home. And supervision is key. So if they have a parent or constant caregiver, we can look at helping them. My oldest has been about 17. I have to tell you, you grab a 17-year-old and they have some of these, things going on and they're real shy in the beginning. And then after they get about halfway through the program, they're like, hey, what is this voodoo stuff? And they start really challenging me. But it's great because I see communication skills, and I'm like, hey, you're taking part of your own education, this is great. But they really start taking like, what are you doing? Why do I need fixed? You know, I don't want to do this. And so I do sometimes require a psychologist or a sociologist or even just a therapist to be on board, because they have a lot of emotional baggage at that point. And so we try to get that involved too, but we can work with them as long as they're at home and parents can kind of do the beginning stages of the exercises for them. And then they can do the exercises kind of just following directions on their own when they're ready to follow directions, right? So, yeah.
So when you meet with them on a weekly basis, is that what you had said? If they have any challenges with the exercises, are you able to coach them and say, here's, try this technique?
Yes, so I use an app called Marco Polo. It's super easy to turn it on, record, and I get immediately recordings to me, so they don't have to upload videos and figure that out. Most of my families have really enjoyed that. And because I only work with them once every 8 weeks, I think the most important thing to me is to keep things personable and have that parent feel like we have a connection. Because if I were to just give them an exercise and leave them hanging for 8 weeks, I'd risk losing a lot of my clientele. So I like to check in and I like to show my face and really show them my heart. And then if they are having trouble with the exercise, I'm like, hey, set your phone up on Marco Polo tonight, record the exercise, let me see it. And then I add some stuff or I take away things and help make that better for their child. Because there's some children that I can go up to like a midpoint and a halfway where they're right on their sides in a blanket roll, and there's some kids, I'm already grabbing that mora. They're already afraid that mom and dad are gonna drop them. So I can't go that fast. So sometimes we give them an exercise and mom and dad are like, that didn't work so well. And then we're like, okay, take it back to this. And we can fix it and correct it really quickly. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, I was thinking more of if there was a child's resistant in doing the exercise, are you saying we would just maybe backtrack a little bit so that you don't do as much?
So the child's resistance, after they do it for a couple weeks, even 3 or 4 weeks, they really get in the habit of doing it, and it's kind of before bedtime. So I do have some kiddos that are like, she's not liking the blanket roll, can we do something else? And there are some exercises I can do. The blanket roll has to be my favorite. I see the most tremendous changes with that one. But I can change that. But really I tell the parent, like, we've got to push through. We've got to push through, we've got to get this, you know, and this is the best way to do that. And so I work with them. I worked in the school system so long that I worked with like a behavioral, like, it just escaped my mind, I'm sorry. I work with like incentives, like if you do this. And I do, when I meet up with my kiddos, I bring like a surprise chest and I'm like, have you done your exercise good? Are you battling mom with your exercise? And I always tell them too, if they want to battle you, have them call me. I'm the one that's making you do the exercise, not mom. She's following what I said. So I can have that rapport with them too, but there is sometimes that I'm just like, this is all we can do, you gotta push forward. And that sometimes is a parenting battle. So as much as I can help, maybe I need a parent specialist or something that can help mom too, like, yep, this is what we're doing, you know, and stay strong, because that's hard, it is hard. So, I don't know, Brendan, you didn't like doing the exercises all the time, did you? That's my son Brendan, he just got done with mountain bike riding, so. So he didn't dislike the exercise, he was pretty compliant, but I mean, there was sometimes like, really mom, again? You know, and yeah, again, it's working, we're doing this. So. Any other questions? Well, I hope I didn't take up too much of your time tonight. Feel free to ask questions, feel free to share my information, please share my information with others. Help me get the word out. Again, it was my pleasure to give this speech tonight. If you want to set up anything like this with people you know, I'd be more than happy to talk on this subject again. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.